And welcome back to coverage here of the MagicOnline Champions Showcase. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and look who we have with us now. We've got Reid Duke with us to cover the modern rounds. Reid, great to see you, and welcome to the booth.
Great to see you, Marshall. Hello, everybody. Thrilled to be here. I mean, the MOCS is one of the most fun events on the Magic calendar, and from what I hear, you and Ely brought us some fireworks for the morning portion, and hopefully the afternoon is no different.
Yeah, that's right. We got to watch vintagecube for the first 3 rounds. That is now behind us, and we have one of our grand finalists already in there. Antonin has taken that seat, but the way this tournament works is they reset again. All 8 players are going to be playing modern against each other, and same structure as before, where every round earns them more prize money, and the winner, the only 3-0 to emerge from these 8 players in modern, will secure the other grand final seat as well as a seat at the World Championship. The interesting part too is that if it happens to be the same person, well, then there's no final because they would just be playing against each other. They get all the prize money and of course the seats as it were at the World Championship. But Reid, we are in fact transitioning over to modern here, where I know many players in the field are modern specialists and are excited to get their hands on the constructed portion where it's a known quantity and they can see if their prediction for the metagame or their knowledge of their deck are enough to propel them to that victory. So let's take a look at our opening matchup here in modern. We've got Rodrigo versus Claudio, 2 countrymen here from Brazil about to fight it out against each other. And even though Claudio has a lot more experience playing modern, you can see he's played about triple the matches. They both have a very similar modern win rate, Reid. So kind of interesting to see 2 players of, roughly equal caliber in modern about to face off. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the deck choice that these players have made. Let's see what Rodrigo has taken with him into the tournament. He is on Jeskai Blink. This is a popular choice these days, Reid.
Yeah, Jeskai Blink, I would say, is one of the most well-rounded decks in modern. It's got a really high density, just jumps off the page at you from looking at the deck list. A high density of the very best cards in modern. Think Ragavan, Flage, this Quantum Riddler, Solitude, Ephemerate package. So it has a lot of different ways that it can come at you. Makes it difficult for the opponent to prepare for everything, and difficult to sideboard against as well.
How would you describe this deck? Would you describe it in modern terms as like a mid-range deck? Is it a combo deck with the the blinky stuff that you mentioned? Like how would you describe it?
Great question, Marshall. For me, through the scope of modern, this is about as close to mid-range as you're going to get. However, okay, modern is such a high power level format that basically every deck has elements of combo baked in. In this case, it's going to be Quantum Riddler, Ephemerate. In the case of Boros Energy, it's a Johnny Goblin Bombardment or Flage Arena of Glory. So, even the people who ostensibly are playing fair, they've got some tricks up their sleeve.
That's right. It's just funny to see a deck that starts with Ragavan and has Quantum Riddler in it too. And you're like, what is this deck trying to do? But it turns out a lot. Let's take a look at what Claudio's got lined up for us as well. Curious to see what he's brought. And a very similar list here. Yeah, really similar to what we saw there. Perhaps just a little bit less leaning into the Ephemerate package, but still all the cards are here, from what we saw from before.
Exactly right, Marshall. It's a dead heat on the scorecard. It's a dead heat in terms of the deck choice. So it's a really tough one to call, but we can be sure that this is going to be an intricate matchup where it's not just the cards the players brought, but also the way they're played and who can sort of get their threats and answers to line up properly. That's a big deal in these Solitude Blink matchups. So the players are going to have to bring their best game and really navigate as carefully as they can in order to get through a tough opponent.
All right, well, let's see. We've got evenly matched players on very similar lists. And let's see how this thing goes. You see Rodrigo on the bottom part of your screen, Claudio on the top. And I look like perhaps a mulligan there from Rodrigo, maybe. He may have just been rearranging his cards, but we'll find out shortly.
Mulligans in Modern,
and
in particular with these blink decks, they're really tricky because if you're able to assemble one of your combos and or your strong uncontested openings, like a turn 1 Ragavan, that can be worth so much more than just, you know, a sheer volume of 7 cards that maybe don't mesh particularly well together. So you're going to see different mulligan strategies employed by different players, but sometimes some of these really elite players who have played a lot, they say, okay, I'm going to be willing to mulligan pretty aggressively to assemble that, you know, Felia Quantum Riddler opening or that turn 1 Ragavan on the play opening. Unfortunately for Claudio, unfortunately for Rodrigo, I should say, he mulliganed and didn't find that sort of bailout, so he's going to have to settle in for a long, tough game.
Yeah, this one looks really rough for him. He's got a painfully fair hand thus far. Hey, there's Quantum Riddler. At least he has something to do on turn 2 if he'd like.
Yeah, Quantum Riddler is a great way to unmulligan, so we might see him just sort of cash it in for a card now, but having that later on, maybe pick up some treasures from a Goblin Shaman token, and by the time you are empty-handed, you can replay the Quantum Riddler and restock after the tough opening.
Okay, he's going to run out the Warped Quantum Riddler here to see what he can find. How does the hand look for Claudio? You know, he's got 2 consigned to memory. A lot of interaction up there.
Yeah, very reactive hand from Claudio, which he might feel okay about given the matchup and the opponent starting on 5 cards. But he doesn't have his freebie this game. He's not going to get one of those really snowbally starts. Both players, I think, are going to settle in, try to use their cards effectively, squeeze as much juice out of every lemon that they have access to, and you know, maybe by turn 5, 6, 7, we're going to have a better idea of how this game is shaping up.
Yeah, this does look like it could be one of those grindy games. You see Claudio not using Galvanic Discharge here on the 2/2. What does he have lined up? And said he's going to Flage it away, it looks like. Flage, very impressive cards, really had a big impact in any format that you can play it on. And you can see he's getting his value here. Speaking of Galvanic Discharge, that's the draw step here for Rodrigo. But he does have Teferi Time Raveler at the ready, and he's got the Rummage effect at his disposal too. So perhaps an opportunity here for him to craft a much better hand and get something going.
Totally, yeah. He's found just the types of threats he wants for a low resource game. We talked about Quantum Riddler already, but Fable the Mirror Breaker is so strong in terms of getting 2 must-answer bodies, sculpting your hand, filling your graveyard. He does even have a play available to him where he could choose to bounce his own Fable, talking about getting maximum value out of every single card. Not sure he'll do that because it's a trade-off between cards in hand versus onboard presence, but, you know, something to think about.
Yeah, and then if he doesn't bounce it, he can -3 and just draw the card, which is actually what he ended up doing, perhaps trying to hit that land drop for the turn, but unable to do so. It does mean that Teferi is available to become Galvanic Discharged, however, with only 1 loyalty left. So that is what's going to happen here. Claudio awarded there for keeping that card in hand. Now he has the answer to the pesky Planeswalker. And it looks like we're going to see Consigned to Memory here on this final trigger.
This is a pretty cool one. So it's basically just using Consigned to Memory as a removal spell on the Reflection of Kiki Jiki. So instead of having the Saga transform, it's just we're going to counter that transform ability. It's going to die as a natural effect of having 3 Saga counters on it. And that's it. That's the end of the Fable.
You can see Consigned to Memory in hand now from Rodrigo. He's also got Prismatic Ending Solitude in his own copy of Galvanic Discharge. But right now, neither player really has a big threat going. And that seems to be where they want to be. Is it time for Flage to come back?
It looks like it. So Claudio, again, super, super reactive draw this game. He is actually, in some ways, not drawn any cards that are not, lands or removal spells. But this is the beauty of
Right.
Flage. You can use it as removal on turn 3, incidentally find it waiting in your graveyard for later. And really cool setup for Claudio is one of the best answers to Flage in this matchup is Solitude. And Claudio
Hmm.
could consign to memory the Solitude's triggered ability in order to,
Oh,
make a run at keeping this super powerful Titan on the battlefield.
it looks like Rodrigo's considering doing this right now.
Yeah, and actually, this could be a disaster for Rodrigo because that white card that he had to
Right.
pitch for the Solitude was his other answer to Flage.
Yeah. What's the rush here? I mean, if he draws a land, he can just hard cast Solitude, or he still has that same play available to him. But he's going for it.
Part of what he's going for here is he likes the idea of using the replicate to counter both the sacrifice trigger on his own Solitude and the lightning helix trigger on the
Oh,
Flage. So just getting a little bit of extra value, but I think he's going to be really, really disappointed when he sees Consign countering the Solitude ability, because if he untaps and can't immediately answer this Flage, it's probably going to dominate the game.
right. It just takes usually a couple of attack steps before that thing runs away with it. And there's that key consigned to memory. Rodrigo doing everything he can to try to squeeze every bit of value out of his cards. But when the dust settles, the Flage is still on the battlefield. And right now, there's no good answer here for Rodrigo.
So Rodrigo, in my opinion, should attack here because if Claudio chooses to block, you can finish off the Flage with Galvanic Discharge. If you don't make that play, then your Solitude is just going to die to the Flage trigger and get no value.
Right. You might as well at least just get the 3 life, if not give yourself a chance to make Discharge a real card. But he didn't do that. He instead just tapped out and ended up getting his Riddler solituded away. So now, once again, the way is clear for this Flage to just start slamming. It takes out the Solitude, hits for 6. And he even has a nice follow-up with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This is a clutch draw here for Rodrigo. He needs to find a way. Oh, and he hits Solitude to get that Flage off the battlefield. That'll work.
Yeah, this is beautiful, actually. So he can hard cast a Solitude with haste if he would like, exile the Flage for good, Galvanic Discharge the Goblin Shaman, and then I wouldn't say he's in a dominant position because he is facing down Fable of the Mirror Breaker and a card in hand, but he's at least stabilized the battlefield and could be one good draw step away from getting back into it.
Man, that was a big draw for him. Because as you said, Reid, the having a Flage on the battlefield for even a couple of turns usually just spells death. All right, it looks like he's going to take the slightly more patient route. He's going to fire off his Solitude during the upkeep. And there we go. He can breathe easy. Flage has been answered. Of course, Claudio finds Galvanic Discharge off the top to go with his Solitude. So he has multiple answers now. And I think, he's just going to stand pat with his hand. He's not even going to discard anything, which, of course, is no good news whatsoever from Rodrigo. But still, he's in such a better position than the one he was in. You can imagine Rodrigo coming back from here, but facing in that Flage, it seemed like a much taller order.
I want to highlight a nice subtle little play there where Claudio declared his Goblin Shaman token as an attacker, banked his treasure, then killed the blocker. And the reason that's important is if he had just started his turn by Galvanic discharging Rodrigo's Solitude, then Rodrigo would know to Galvanic discharge the Goblin Shaman token before attacks.
Oh.
So by sequencing carefully and giving your opponent as little information as possible, it's a way to, again, we've just talked over and over again about getting as much value out of every card as you can in these mid-range scrappy matchups. And that's exactly what Claudio has done, I think, basically every step of the way this game.
Now, this galvanic discharge does want to hit the reflection, right? Like that's, oh, never mind. Wrath of the Skies off the top. What is
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Oh,
clean up the creatures, clean up the treasures, bank a couple energy if you want.
And he's even left up the 1 mana for the discharge. Wow, this has been a real game here. I wonder if Claudio, no, he's going to keep the Solitude in hand. I mean, at what point do you run it out just as an attacker? You know, you do have Rodrigo down to 9.
I think it's good to be patient. That's, I think, of course, it can sometimes be appropriate, but it can also be a pitfall of you just go like, boy, I really want to get this game over with. I'm going to hope it works out. But generally, I really value the approach of let's be patient. Let's make sure I line up my threats properly against the opponent's answers, my answers properly against the opponent's threats. And again, get maximum value out of every card. And that means waiting until there's a juicy target before you cast the Solitude. But wow, Marshall, this has just fully turned around.
This is crazy. Rodrigo keeps finding exactly what he needs every single time. Now he finds Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Oh, but there's Quantum Riddler now for Claudio. Man, these guys are throwing some haymakers.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's 2 cards, right? Oh, and he found Philia and another Solitude. Oh, boy. And there's Solitude now from Rodrigo. He's going to want to hang on to that one. This has been one heck of a game. Difficult to figure out who's ahead at any given point. Though it has been Claudio for the most part.
It has been Claudio, yeah, ever since the opening 5 cards against 7 cards. Claudio, I would say, was even, you know, a draw step or 2 away from winning the game at certain points. And now it has equalized with Fable of the Mirror Breaker being a huge player, though I still think probably the most important card on either side right now is the Quantum Riddler currently waiting in Warp for Claudio. So barring something big like a uncontested Flage, I got to pick the player who has access to that ultra powerful Quantum Riddler in a close game like this.
Yeah, it seems like in this matchup, it's difficult. You know, the reflection token always, or the reflection of Kiki-Jiki always feels like a huge threat, but it almost never gets to do the thing, right? It's very, like, there's so much removal between these 2 decks that it's very difficult to actually get it going. It of course means you need to respect it, and it demands that type of removal. But, you know, I mean, you can look at a situation here where you see the Solitude in hand, and next turn, you know, reflection of Kiki-Jiki or whatever, but it rarely actually comes to fruition. Oh, he's going to go for a hasted Philia here, though, to kill the token.
So a number of things you can do with hasted Philia. He could also just cast his
reset.
Solitude with haste. There are pros and cons of that play for sure, especially when there is Quantum Riddler waiting in the opponent's warp zone. But, you know, you can imagine if you just went for the instant gratification play a hasted Solitude, exile the Goblin Shaman, attack with both, blink your reflection of Kiki-Jiki to reset the saga. It's a lot of value in one turn.
Absolutely.
He goes with
going
what
to
you
just
said,
stick with
which
the
is a great play as well.
Yeah, I think it's what you said, Reid, about, you know, he really wants to try to bank this Solitude for the forthcoming Riddler. Here's Philia. Both players have a very similar board state to each other. Consigned to Memory was the draw step there for Claudio, and he seems content to just keep that and the Solitude in hand.
So again, talking about the nuances mattering here, Claudio could have just spent 5 mana and Solituded the Philia immediately. He didn't, and then his opponent drew Consigned to Memory. So sort of like missed the window in that sense, through not necessarily his own fault, just the random draw step, but yeah, the timing. It's not just what cards you play; it's also the timing that can matter a lot in a close matchup like this.
And we're going to see that consigned to memory flexed here. That would take out the Solitude trigger.
So Solitude is blinked by Felia. Claudio says, okay, I'm going to let you trade with my Felia. And then in exchange, I'm going to get back my Solitude in the end step. I'm going to keep this Solitude in my hand. I'm going to have 5 mana if I choose to cast Quantum Riddler from Warp.
Man, and the Felia did not get blocked, so it's still here. Here comes Quantum Riddler to add 2 more cards to hand as well. And there comes back the Solitude. That's going to hit the opposing Solitude. And a land off the top here from Rodrigo. The mirror's kind of funny, Reid. Like the Felia, sometimes you look at the targets and you're like, not really sure I want to blink any of these. And it looks like that's what Rodrigo thought too, because he just scooped them up. That is game number 1 going to Claudio. You know, he, like you said, he started out ahead thanks to the mulligan to 5 from Rodrigo, but Claudio was able to hang on to that lead kind of just barely, but throughout the course of it, and eventually lean on Rodrigo enough to finally get the win.
I really liked the way Claudio played that game. He opened on a very reactive start, so no free wins, no pressuring the opponent and getting away with an easy one. Instead, it was just ultra patience, lining up the right tool for the right job, eventually finding that Quantum Riddler at the key moment in the end game, and that was enough to get him across the finish line.
You take a quick look at the players' sideboarding here. Is this the type of deck that's vulnerable to, we call it like a silver bullet sideboard card?
No, these are very well-rounded decks. In fact, in a mirror match like this, you could go so far as to say it's very not obvious how you should sideboard, because any card you look at, say Wrath of the Skies or Spell Snare, you name it, you can construct in your mind a scenario where it would be really effective, but you could also construct a scenario in your mind where it would be the wrong answer at the wrong time. Like, boy, I have this Spell Snare and my opponent is beating me down with Quantum Riddler and Flage, so things like that. Another example is the first thing I noticed when we had both players sideboarding on screen is very different approaches to the 4 copies of Ragavan. One player 4 right there in the main deck, the other player, select drag all 4 immediately out of the deck before anything else happened. Now that could be a play draw thing, or it could be, legitimately different opinions among expert players on how to best approach this matchup.
Yeah, if we get a game 3, we'll find out if Claudio puts those Ragavans back in the main, and that'll answer that question. As you can see, Felia on the battlefield, the first threat from our players here, this one coming from Rodrigo. You see one of his sideboard cards, he's got a Ghost Vacuum there, and there is even a copy of Flage for Claudio. Here comes Galvanic Discharge to take down the Felia.
Now, did Rodrigo just...
there's an Ephemerate off the top. Yeah, he did. And look at this. Huge draw here. Ephemerate off the top with Quantum Riddler in hand and the land ready to go. And he gets to basically just combo off here. Oh, and the consigned to memory does not get used here by Claudio.
So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Claudio to evoke Solitude in response to this Ephemerate. But even that, you can't be that disappointed. I mean, you got your card off Quantum Riddler. You forced your opponent to 2 for 1, including, expending one of their best cards against you. So, Claudio breathes a sigh of relief that he had the answer rather than just falling woefully behind. But it's not like it was a disaster for Rodrigo.
That's right. He's got his own Quantum Riddler to keep his hand stockpiled. And he's got the consign to memory, so he gets to keep the thing around too. And it looks like we're going to see Teferi Time Raveler. And he's going to bounce the Quantum Riddler, find Galvanic Discharge, pass the turn back over to Claudio. Claudio, is it time for Fable? Yes, it is. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to hit. He doesn't have his land drop for the turn, so he's just going to have to settle for the Goblin Shaman. But Rodrigo does have the answer for it, and he's going to use it right now. Galvanic Discharge takes care of the Goblin on end step and gives him kind of a clean slate to work from for his main phase. He's going to start off by plussing Teferi Time Raveler because that's free anyway. And is he going to Prismatic Ending the Fable? He is. He noticed the lack of land drop there, I think, and said, I don't think I want you to rummage this time.
Good call, Marshall. That's really well spotted and a tight play from Rodrigo in a spot where maybe that wasn't obvious that everyone would make that choice.
You see the Ghost Vacuum hit the battlefield here for Rodrigo, but it's only going to be there for a minute because Prismatic Ending is going to send it packing. But, oh, and then there's also the Flage off of the land here. That was a nice sequence from Claudio, too. He gets to get rid of Teferi and start working towards this Flage endgame without the Ghost Vacuum on the battlefield. He just needs another card in the yard so he can get that thing going. Oh, but there's Ragavan, and he's going to dash it. Let's see what he can hit. Couldn't quite see, but apparently nothing that he could use this. Or no, maybe he is casting something. Oh, definitely.
Wow. That is a nice. It's, you think about what would be a really good top deck here. Teferi Time Raveler. But you know what? Let's do one better, Ragavan, and take your Teferi Time Raveler.
Oh, that is gnarly. And interestingly here, Reid, he plussed the Teferi. He did not cash it in for a card straight away, even though you do get to still have Teferi on the battlefield if you do so. He's kept its loyalty higher.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a cost there in that he did have to tap down to only 1 mana, meaning he would have been unable to Mystical Dispute the Flage escape from the graveyard. Say, for example, if Claudio had drawn a fetch land there. Claudio didn't, so instead he's going to go for Quantum Riddler, wisely starting on Warp rather than just tapping out for a hard cast one.
In which case the dispute would have been back online. And speaking of back online, here's Mystical Dispute to take down the opposing Teferi Time Raveler. And that is going to work. And of course, this Quantum Riddler's on Warp, so it's going away. So once again, a clear board here from Rodrigo, and he gets to hit with Ragavan again.
Gets hit with Ragavan again, sets up a Flage with a stacked graveyard as well. And Arena of Glory, notably. Flage Escape with Arena of Glory, that's the killing blow for these decks. If there's a lot of answers to it, but when protected by Teferi, we could see the game be over as early as next turn if Rodrigo sets that up properly.
Rodrigo plussed yet again on the Teferi. Is he just trying to keep it out of Galvanic Discharge range? Is that the idea? Flage?
Yeah, Galvanic Discharge,
like
Flage. I think that's exactly right.
Okay. By the way, speaking of Flage, Claudio does get to escape it here. It's going to come back onto the battlefield, take a chunk of loyalty out of Teferi Time Raveler from 6 down to 3. He also found Solitude, as did Rodrigo.
Here I would expend Arena of Glory and give Ragavan and Solitude both haste. Make a nice big attack.
Wow. So this is a not dashed, but also hasty Ragavan. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. Yep. And it'll stick around.
Kind of get it all. And then a hard cast Solitude using the other mana from the arena. So it also has haste. Away goes Flage, and bang, hit you for 5 and get another Ragavan trigger. This is the third one this game. It is very difficult to win a game if your opponent hits you with Ragavan 3 times.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially like, remember, this is Claudio's Teferi Time Raveler on Rodrigo's side of the battlefield, and it's arguably the most important permanent, on the whole battlefield in this game.
Yeah, it just makes it so that you can breathe easy. Even if Claudio wanted to use his Solitude, he wouldn't have been able to. Not that it would have been such an amazing play last turn anyway, but he's going to try to rebuild here. He's going to main phase hard cast Solitude to get around Teferi, taking out, interestingly, not the other Solitude, but the Ragavan, and another Teferi off the top here for Rodrigo. He's got backup plans for his backup plans. And you can see the other card in his hand is a Flage on the other side. Well, there's some rebuild potential there. Quantum Riddler and Ophelia. Is this a hasty Flage? No, it was still
well,
tapped,
this one is
it?
going away. So, but Rodrigo set it up kind of nicely staggered, where this is the turn that the Arena of Glory isn't going to untap, and it's the turn that he's going to set up the Flage, and then next turn he'll have both. Once again, if Teferi is there to stop any instant speed interaction, that could just be game over.
Right, because what is Flage, 12 damage if left unchecked with haste? Just 3/3 and
alternatively, you can work on removing blockers with the triggers. So yeah, it's going to be pretty ugly. But a nice surveil there. Claudio just spiked a Flage into his graveyard. He's still a couple of cards away from escaping, but if he makes it that far, that'll be an important one to think about.
Well, he's got to play everything face up here. Consigned to Memory is more or less a brick in this scenario. He just can't even cast it the way that he wants, or at all for that matter.
Correct, and that's a huge reason that these players are actually playing Teferi in their deck. Is it shuts off a lot of the most powerful shenanigans, if you will, in these mirror matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if he was able to cast that consign here, he would have been able to keep the Quantum Riddler on the battlefield. Instead, oh no, he finds another consign in a Strict Serenade, and he can't take it. He scoops it up after seeing that. Oh, what a disaster. All right, let's see what Claudio does with the Ragavans. Yeah, looks like they're back in, Reid.
Okay, yeah, so that is confirmed to play draw thing. But let's see if Rodrigo elects to keep Ragavan in his deck on the draw. It was good for him in that game.
It sure was. How could he turn his back on Ragavan after that? It's just a loyalty question at this point,
So I've got a fun fact, Marshall. One of the very, very few differences between these two players' decks is that Rodrigo has a third copy of Arena of Glory when a lot of the other Jeskai players in the field only have two. Arena of Glory was great for Rodrigo that game, and Claudio probably wished that he had it in order to haste his Flage or more effectively pressure the Teferi. So if that had been flipped, the game, the whole texture of the game could have been a bit different.
Yeah, that card was a total beating. It feels like it's the type of card that allows you to retake the initiative on some board states that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And like you pointed out, that combo with Flage is just nasty. All right, Flooded Strand to kick things off in game number 3 here for Claudio. He's on the play. RodrigoPinheiro is going to have to figure out a way to win on the draw. He starts off with Elegant Parlor.
So already we're seeing a difference in the way Ragavan plays. Like I have to imagine if Rodrigo had been going first, he's just fetching and playing Ragavan and crossing his fingers like, hey, let's get the easy win here with the uncontested Ragavan. But on the draw, he says, well, I don't want to use my turn, play the Ragavan into your open mana, fall behind, and then kind of let things spiral out of control from there. So instead, the Ragavan, when he's on the draw, might be kind of sculpting that late game scenario that we saw in game 2, where he's going to wait for an open moment and dash it. Alternatively, he has with some counter spells.
Yeah, he's got Strict Serenade and Mystical Dispute. So now no dash. He's just going to run out Ragavan cold, and it looks like Claudio, is he going to play into it? No, he got an Elegant Parlor of his own. He also played Ghost Vacuum last turn. Oh, he's got Teferi Time Raveler in hand. Oh, but there's also a Mystical Dispute. Lots of options here for him. He could just go with Flage and kill Ragavan. Oh, he went tap Sacred Foundry, go. Claudio showing great patience this match.
It's awesome when you see
Mystical Dispute. Mm-hmm.
When you see a player showing that level of patience, because from our seats, we're like, okay, let's look at all the awesome things that Claudio could do this turn. So many options, so many configurations that it's just like tap land go, you know? So sometimes that's appropriate. Like you gotta play the long game here. You gotta make sure you're seeing the big picture and not rushing.
Well, this is a pretty good opening here for some nonsense with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and it does look like it's going to resolve here because it's just Mystical Dispute left for Claudio. So there it is, Fable on the battlefield, Arena of Glory, the draw step, and he's got Teferi and Flage to choose from. How does he want to deal with this token? It's going to be Flage, it looks like.
Yeah, so certainly when the turn started, I was thinking, oh, it's really nice to play Teferi, -3 on the token, get your value. Then, you know, if your opponent doesn't have a haste creature or a burn spell, you might get to untap with the Planeswalker. I do think one of the subtle factors that influenced his decision there is that he only has 1 blue mana. So it's either Teferi and that's it, or it's Flage and hold up Mystical Dispute. I could even imagine a scenario here where if he gets to tag something with the Mystical Dispute, he's now only 1 card away from actually getting that escaped Flage.
A little bit awkward here for Rodrigo, not having access to his 3rd mana. And it looks like he's going to take the patient route here too. He doesn't want to run into Mystical Dispute, and he does have a couple of plays with Strict Serenade and the Philia in hand. So he's going to lean on those cards instead. Meanwhile, Claudio continues to hit land drops, just needs to kind of have the big reload, and he's going to kick off the festivities here with Teferi Time Raveler to try to set the stage for it. But he doesn't have quite enough mana to pay for Mystical Dispute, so Rodrigo is going to go for that. Although, yes, it looks like we're going to see a Mystical Dispute right back at you here from Claudio.
Yeah, and then if you're Rodrigo, you have some choices. You could Strict Serenade to win the counter war, but that does come at a cost. You give your opponent a free 2/2. He could play Philia, but he's going to have to do that before the Teferi resolves. So it does look like he really puts a lot of weight on that Planeswalker, and he's able to use this sort of costly, unfavorable counterspell to make sure he wins that battle.
Yeah, when you have the Philia in your hand too, as well as 2 Teferis, you know, you're so much less worried about the token catching up to you later. He just has a lot of answers to it. But you know how Teferi goes. If it sticks on the battlefield, it just makes your life miserable. So he does end up winning that war. And it looks like he's flirting with the idea of just playing a Teferi, and I assume bouncing the token. But yeah, he is actually going to play the Teferi out here. Let's see what he wants to do with it. Yeah, he's going to kill the bird token. He did find his land drop for the turn and another one too.
It looks to me like we're going to see that play that we've been talking about all match of escaped Flage with Arena of Glory getting to distribute 12 damage.
Oh.
I presume Claudio's going to go for this. He's going to start by killing the reflection of Kiki Jiki, but then he has options. Does he go after the Teferi? Does he just unload a ton of damage against his opponent's life total? It's going to be devastating one way or another.
Yeah, he can either leave Rodrigo on 10 life with no non-land permanents, or if he really wants, he can leave Teferi on the battlefield and get him 3 damage, less than that if he sees a route to victory that might be that. But man, Teferi's so important for future top decks that he's just going to go sweep the board effectively and leave Rodrigo down to 10. Now he's at 9 after the fetch land. And last time I checked, 9 is divisible by 3. This is something Rodrigo is going to have to find an answer, a permanent answer for Flage, because bouncing Flage, not so great. Just comes right back again.
Let me put something else on your radar here. If you just look at the hands, you're going to say, oh boy, Rodrigo's got so much more firepower than Claudio. But what we actually could see happen in this game is the 6-mana activation of Ghost Vacuum. You tend to think of this as just some kind of mopey graveyard hate card. But when we're talking about creatures on the power level of Quantum Riddler, on the power level of Flage, cracking that and getting all of those creatures onto the battlefield, even in 1/1 form, that can easily be enough to win the game.
Oh man, I'll take a 1/1 Flage all day long. Wow, that would be crazy if that's what we end up seeing here. It looks like Claudio has enough to just kind of do all the things here. He can go for Teferi, and he can even cast Flage, just for the 3 mana and try to get that rolling as well. This is a decision point now for Rodrigo. This is his opportunity to cast Philia. If that Teferi hits, he will not be able to do so.
Right. So Rodrigo knows that Claudio's only card in hand is Flage. Still, he's going to offer up the Philia. I think just judging that it's, in a close game like this, things are moving fast and it would be way too bad to let that mana go unspent. So now Claudio, with some interesting choices, he could Flage the Teferi and bounce the Philia. He could Flage the Philia and let the Teferi stick on the battlefield. He could draw a card or leave his Planeswalker at a high loyalty. So all of these tough decisions.
He ultimately ended up killing Philia with the Flage. Oh, and a Flage drawn here from Rodrigo. Now, he does not have the Arena of Glory available, though, does he?
He does not. And something he should at least consider here is waiting till 7 mana for the Flage, because he's going to evoke it here, and it's just going to get eaten by Ghost Vacuum 100%, no questions asked. And then, that's a scary permanent to have under the Ghost Vacuum, too. When you're,
I was going to say life. That might kill him. Yeah, I mean, he does get 3 life back off of it, but yeah, it's gone now, or it will be. Oh, double Solitude off of the Quantum Riddler? Doesn't do much here, though, does it?
No, it's a way to answer a Flage in the future. It's also, we could get into some dicey situations where you want to Solitude your own creature and gain some life, get out of burn range. But yeah, not really the level of assertive.
Here's the Ghost Vacuum, Reid.
Rodrigo. It is. Wow.
Here it comes. He's doing it. Oh, that is amazing. He loves seeing that Flage in there. And he's going to get the trigger. That will kill the opposing Teferi, right? Yeah, it does. And then he gets the card and he gets left with totally fine Ragavan with 1 slightly less power. And remember, he still has his own Teferi on the battlefield as Claudio. So, he's really forcing the hand here for Rodrigo. It is getting very awkward for him.
But Marshall, the Flage went
it put the Flage back into the... I did not think that was going to happen.
Right, yeah, because, when cards like Ghost Vacuum, there's so many different sort of templates where you're exiling the creature and then maybe you're making a copy. But no, you actually put the physical card of Flage back onto the battlefield as a 1/1. It still has that triggered ability of sacrifice it if you didn't escape it. And it's the opponent's Flage. So now that's back in the graveyard. Wild. Rodrigo has a stacked graveyard, tons of mana, and Ghost Vacuum's gone.
Was this a mistake from Claudio, like letting him have access to this Flage again?
That's a great question. I mean, the amount of value he generated is hard to resist, like killing that troublesome Planeswalker, refilling your hand with Quantum Riddler. But I'll tell you, like, unanswered Flage, that's just it. There's a lot of powerful things you can do in this with this Jeskai deck in this mirror match, but if you do not answer your opponent's Flage, you are probably going to lose to it. And I'm confident making that statement in a wide range of game states and situations.
So he uses it to take out Teferi. Now it looks like he may... Oh, okay. I thought he might have gone for Solitude to try to get extra cards off the Riddler, but he is just going to cast the Riddler. Oh, and there's the Arena of Glory. Just a turn late. But, his graveyard is still very stacked. So even if the Flage were to die here, he could get it back again soon. Let's see how Claudio can come back because he has a stacked hand of his own, double Riddler, double Fable.
Yeah, how do you feel about warping 2 Quantum Riddlers with haste from Arena of Glory?
Oh, I feel really good about it.
Ooh, Marshall, and
This is
he
wild.
found Flage, so he can deal 12 damage
Oh,
unblockable
to
to an
get him down
opponent
to
at
just
13 life.
one?
Oh no, the Ragavan is flying too.
Oh, it has flying. That's actually lethal.
No way, but there's Solitude, so
Yes.
but he did not evoke Solitude. So now
No, he
when
didn't.
when the Flage gets
he has to solitude his own guy.
he has to Solitude his own guy to survive, but that's it. I mean, that's all the resources that he had access to. It's both his cards in his hand. It's that devastating Titan that he had on the battlefield.
Oh,
What a game.
man.
Holy
What
smokes.
a swing for Claudio. So the dust settles with Rodrigo at 6 with nothing going. Riddler? No, he finds a land off the top. And that means that Claudio is going to take this down. Is there a Riddler in Warp?
Yeah,
there
but
is a Riddler in
He
Warp.
needs something special here.
Is that enough? He's at 6. Oh, is that the 5th card there for Flage? It is.
It is. The Arena of Glory is exerted, so it doesn't look like it is lethal yet.
He would be,
but it's close.
No, I guess too short. Yeah.
And he's actually not even going to bother with Flage because he's going to wait till he has the Arena of Glory next turn to do that instead.
That's right.
Claudio, meanwhile, we haven't mentioned it, but he's at 34, so no real danger of him dying out of nowhere.
Yeah. And he gets to just empty his hand of double Fables with that Quantum Riddler on the battlefield. So very difficult situation for Rodrigo. I mean, is there a sweeper?
He does have access to Wrath of the Skies. Whether he left it in after sideboard, I don't know. But he still has some play because he's going to flash in the Felia. That's going to be able to attack.
Yeah.
Blink the Quantum Riddler. So he might get a few extra cards this turn looking for something. Solitude, removal spells. Yeah. Galvanic Discharge is a good start.
Discharge. So he's trying to get these cards out of his hand so he can get maximum Quantum Riddler action.
It looks like he has another Riddler in Warp.
Ah. Oh. Can he find a way to actually survive here? All that has to happen is Flage needs to get turned sideways.
I'm not so sure about exerting the Arena here because, I mean, Claudio's life total can't matter, right? At 37, it's all about whether or not Rodrigo can survive another turn.
Yeah, it looks like he did find Prismatic Ending for the Flage, though, so he's not just dead. Wow. Getting properly aggressive here. That means he's going to be using Ophelia offensively.
And he's attacking for the Quantum Riddler that was a token copy from Ghost Vacuum.
Does that mean it wasn't a real Quantum Riddler? It's gone?
Oh wait, does it mean it's his? Is it his Quantum Riddler?
It's his Quantum Riddler. He got it back. It's the same thing with the Flage. It's just instead it went to exile and then back. He's at 3 life. How many cards can Claudio see here?
Claudio found Flage.
Oh, and there's the Flage for the win. Oh, after all that, and he picks up the match. 2-1. What a crazy match, Reid. That was nuts.
What a way to kick off the modern portion. I mean, that was just wild. So many backs and forths, like the players just seesawing with different, being ahead at on different metrics, and each one trying to emphasize, the part of the game where they were winning. And eventually Claudio just, I mean, I think if Rodrigo's at 4 instead of 3, that game is hard to come back from, but he just barely got across the finish line.
Man, he needed to find some way to finish that game that turn, and he actually did. That was wild. What a win there for Claudio. He's going to pick up the win. That'll net him $1,000 extra of prize money, and of course, keep the dream alive to win out through Modern. It's only 3 rounds. If he can do so, that'll put him in the grand final and in the world championship as well. We've got another match to bring you this round as well. Let's take a look at who we're going to see on our other match. We've got, there we go, Elad versus Soichiro. So that's komattaman. We watched him draft and almost take down the draft as well versus Kakashi on the left-hand side there. And once again, we have a somewhat similar story. One player having significantly more experience in the format, but both players sitting with a relatively similar win percentage. Let's see what archetypes they've decided to bring to the table here. Stettner has brought, does this look familiar, Reid? Jeskai,
yes.
Blink-ish. Yes, same type of stuff that we saw
popular
from
choice.
Our first 2 competitors.
Yeah, so we're actually going to see 4 players playing Jeskai in this small 8-player field. And, if I'm one of them, I show up, there's going to be mixed feelings, because I'm going to say, oh, it's a shame that I don't have a leg up on the field. Maybe I'll have to play some tough mirror matches. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, hey, if 3 of the very best players in the world made the same choice as me, I'm probably doing something right. We talked about this Jeskai deck just being super high power level, well-rounded. So yeah, I'm optimistic for the Jeskai pilots, even though it is a popular choice in the field.
Let's see what's on the other side of the battlefield this time. There it is. We got all of them, Reid. They're all covered here in our opening round. Kohara also playing. It looks like actually a very similar list, just the single copy of Ephemerate there. Some of the subtle differences that you'll see between the lists.
The good news, Marshall, for the broadcast is that even if we wind up seeing a lot of mirror matches, from what we saw in the first round, the first match, they're volatile, they're fun. There's a lot of different ways they can play out. So it's not like we're going to see this repetitive, like, oh, we've seen the exact same sort of whoever's on the play gets to combo first, the way some mirror matches go. It's not like that at all. It's dynamic sideboarding. It's different elements of what's going on that one player can emphasize or de-emphasize. There's swings back and forth, top deck. So I think we're going to get to have some fun. And hopefully this match is, if it's half as good as the one we saw a moment ago, I'll be a happy camper.
No kidding. I'll commentate this matchup all day, every day. This is fantastic stuff. Let's head down and see where we pick up the match. It looks like coming into game number 2, where Stettner finds himself up a game over Kohara, and the players are taking a look at their opening hands. This is, of course, sideboarded. Are we going to see Ragavan hit the battlefield and present and be the threat that it is? Yes, we are.
Yeah, so far, at least the players have been unanimous on keeping Ragavan when on the play. This is a card that's just so punishing if you do. I like to think of this as sort of like a high roll card. Like, Ragavan is really strong. If you draw it in the mid game, you can dash it. Your opponent's got to respect it, maybe play a removal spell. But so much of the value of this card in a tournament setting is just the freebie of, hey, every once in a while, I'm going to play Ragavan on turn 1. It's going to go unanswered, and I'm just going to get that easy win. So even though you don't like to sort of hitch your cart to something that's that volatile and that random, those free wins and those, great openings, they definitely add up over the course of several rounds against the best players in the world. You want to take everyone you can get.
Yeah, it's easy to forget those sometimes. we remember the crazy games like the one that we just watched, and then he drew this and I drew that, and those are the really memorable ones. But the ones where you're like, well, I went turn one Ragavan and they had a tap land,
Yep.
and I just ran roughshod. Those games end quickly. People tend to concede once those type of cards start to snowball, and you kind of don't necessarily chalk it up, but it counts every bit as much as the hard fought victory as well. So giving yourself a chance at those is, of course, important. Where are we at here? It looks like Arid Mesa from Kohara. Perhaps Fable. Going to go on the stack here. That's going to resolve too. Shields are down. We're going to see the Galvanic Discharge take out the Goblin token.
Oh, and a huge land
that
off
was
the
a
top.
clutch land.
Yeah, if he didn't find a land, he was saying go with no play, missing white mana as well. But now he is all set. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, gonna discard Flage plus a 6th card next turn. So great spot for Elad, already being up a game as well.
Jeez. Just getting a fetch land that could get untapped white there is just nuts. Like, that's just wild. That thing was in his hand for about a millisecond too, Reid. He immediately put it on the battlefield. It's like, thank God. Let's see what Kohara wants to get rid of. Looks like 2 copies of Consigned to Memory, which find him a Flage and a Quantum Riddler. So those cashed in nicely. No land.
I'm learning something already in one round of Modern here, which this card, Strix Serenade. I would not have guessed Jeskai players would be boarding this in the mirror, because if you read it and you're like, this is sort of it break glass in case of emergency, like I need to counter your lethal combo type of card. That's the way I read it as a sideboard card. But it seems like just the plays and the threats are so outrageously powerful in this Jeskai mirror that the players are like, hey, I'll spend a card to downgrade your Flage or downgrade your Teferi into a 2/2 bird, which is something I never would have expected based on just like sort of the templating of the card. But I guess these players have played enough that's just an effect that they really value.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because it actually ties back into what we were talking about with Ragavan and if you really want it in this particular matchup. And it actually leads me to think that maybe you don't. Right? Like if it's so trivially easy to kill a creature, right? If you have such an abundance of 2-for-1 creature removals, with cards like Flage and Solitude, plus the occasional Philia will kill tokens, that type of thing. I do wonder if it's to that point that you have so many of those that you could just throw Strix Serenade in because you effectively count the 2/2 flyer that they get as like a nothing. Then I do wonder if there's such an abundance of extra 2-for-1s available if you actually want a vulnerable creature that you're just going to play. And yes, there are those rare occasions, but man, they have so much removal for this stuff, even with the Galvanic Discharges staying in post board, that I do wonder if you're almost like playing into your opponent's hands, like if they're so flooded on 2-for-1s available. Are we going to see?
Yeah,
Flage
it's a terrific
here?
point, Marshall. Yeah, we are going to see Flage with haste. Now, some of the most dramatic moments here is when Flage can sort of shred the opponent's battlefield by killing 2 creatures, one with the enters trigger, one with the attack trigger. But here, this is just pure damage. This is just, you're going to take 12, I'm going to gain 6, 18-point life swing. What are you going to do about it?
God, that's insane. That is so wild. Look at all this damage. You're down to 5.
Oh my goodness. Talk about ideal top decks. Arena of Glory gives Kohara not just the 4th land to escape Flage, but he gives his own Flage haste, the 2nd trigger, enough to let his Flage kill Stettner's Flage. So yeah,
that
fireworks.
Is wild. Oh man. So is there a Solitude window here? Yes, there is, because he already committed the first one to the Flage, effectively just burning that activation. And that means that Solitude taking out the other Flage means that the Stettners gets to survive.
Yeah, now it's not quite over because Kohara does gain 6 off of the Solitude exiling Flage. But here, you could see if you just wanted maximum damage, you go Galvanic Discharge your Fable token, attack you for another 12, you're down to 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to, sensibly wind up saving the Galvanic Discharge and using the Flage trigger to take out the blocker instead. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. It's only 9 damage because he's not getting the Enters trigger this turn. But
right. Interesting
still
choice
stands.
here. Yeah, he had the choice of whether to leave up Strict Serenade and Galvanic Discharge or whether to just play out the Fable. And he just went for the Fable. Oh, that's
I
tough
agree.
for Kohara. He draws the Surgical Extraction here, but this is not the board state where that's the type of card you want to see. Can he survive? He can double discharge the Flage. Would keep him alive.
He should be careful here. We know that Stettner has a counterspell, so on the board it is really good to use these discharges main phase, just make sure they resolve. However, Stettner also has Chapter 2 of Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and Arena of Glory. So you can imagine a world where he's like, discard 2, draw a fetch land or a surveil land, and then, the Flage is right back in the equation, although I guess Kohara could Strix Serenade it, break glass in case of emergency.
Mm-hmm. He's under tremendous pressure right now. Stettner really, there's that fetch land too, Reid, just like you said.
Can Surgical Extraction it as well at the cost of 2 life.
Yeah, so then he goes down to 2 from attacks. And we're going to see some patience here from Stettner. He is going to make a copy of the Shaman token, Goblin Shaman, and attack with both. That would put Kohara down to 4 and net him 2 treasure tokens.
Yeah, I wonder why he did not make a play for the Flage. Even Strict Serenade, I would be like, hey, you're down to 4. I'll take my 2/2 bird, please.
Right, and that's the only thing that would really be relevant there for that mana, right?
Right.
It wouldn't be disputable. Well, Kohara's going to go down to 2. Maybe just get the bad news here. Because he is going to get a chance to see Stettner's hand and try to line up if there's any way he can survive. He's got a lot of heat on him right here. He's targeting the Flage, of course.
Yeah, so what? I guess he's going to have to warp the Quantum Riddler. But no, he's just going to concede.
He just looked at the situation and is just like, well, there's no way that I can get out of this, I guess. I mean, the Riddler would have drawn him 2 cards, but maybe there was just nothing he could do from that position. So that is a victory there for Stettner. So he's going to advance, and we see, half, of course, of our mirror matches there advance with the Jeskai Blink deck. So 2 of them still in the running. Again, all the players still in the field. They play each of the rounds and they win additional prize money for each win that they get. But, eyes on the big prize, which is getting yourself into the grand final. We already have one of those seats filled from earlier, thanks to our cube draft. And then theoretically, that person could fill the other seat, in which case they would just win the tournament. That's Antonin. But if not, then it would just end up being whoever emerges from the modern rounds. That is going to do it for this round. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more modern. Don't go anywhere.